Hello, I'm Pastor Keith Mozingo of Metropolitan Community Church of Baton Rouge. I want to thank you for clicking on the video of our worship message. Please go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/MCCBR to see the entire worship service, including prayers, special music, and communion. You're also welcome to join us every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. for worship service. Stay tuned after the message for information on how you can stay in touch with us.
I have a question for you. Have you ever had one of those days that everything's going wrong and everybody's impatient with you and everybody's breathing down your neck and you can't seem to get past one thing before somebody expects something else? And maybe you have some choice words you're saying under your breath, but you wouldn't dare say out loud to your boss or to your loved one. And maybe you're thinking, though, if you could trade places with me for just one day, you would understand what I'm going through. You ever had one of those?
Yes.
Or how about this? You have people that can't figure out why you think the way you think or believe the way you believe. Or say, I don't know how you got to that. I don't know how you got to that. I used to do that with my dad all the time. I don't know how you got to that way. I brought you up in a very different atmosphere than thinking it was all right to go live that way. You ever heard that?
No, yeah.
And I used to think, well, if you could walk a mile in my shoes, if you really could just walk a mile in my shoes, then maybe you'd understand a little bit better. Well, how about this? Let's turn this whole scenario around. Have you ever wanted to trade places with somebody else in their life because you saw what was going on in your life and you just thought, I wish I could be that person, or I wish I could live that person's life? Or maybe you wanted to just walk a mile in their shoes. Maybe you've been envious of some of your neighbors. I've been envious of some of mine through the years. I've coveted times my neighbors' houses or their cars or their new TVs because theirs was bigger than mine. Have you ever wished you had somebody else's abilities? You could trade places with them and let them have your abilities and you have theirs. How about personality? Have you ever met somebody that was just so full of personality? I wish I was like that. I wish I had that personality. Or they had some talent that you wished you had. Or looks. You ever wanted to trade bodies with somebody? I see bodies on a daily basis that I'd like to trade with. Wow. Or maybe you would like somebody else's sex appeal. Or maybe someone's extroversion. Maybe you'd like to sing like somebody else sings. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I can carry a tune. I can stay on note. I can teach a whole choir all of their parts because I can read the music and I can sing well enough to teach them their parts. But do you want to hear me sing a solo? No. A solo voice I do not have. It is not one of those that's going to be like Sarah's, that when she gets up here, it's going to be beautiful.
Amen.
That's right. Some of you want to preach. Some of you want to administrate. Do you know that I am envious of some people who clean? So those of you who are professional cleaners, I'm envious of. Fran, you have abilities I don't have. You know how to do things that I don't have. You have little secrets that the most of us don't have.
Yep.
And you know how to do something in a timely and fashionable way that I will just never get. It's just not there. How about this? How about you fix things? Sometimes I think I'm going to go fix this, something that went wrong in my house. And usually I just make it worse. And then I call Cass. We just get it right. Might as well. Sometimes I just don't even touch that key. Just call Cass. Just call Cass now. And what about this? Here's an important one that I really, 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 really wish I had that I don't have. Some people have a knack for making money. You give them a quarter and they come back with $100. I don't know how they do that, but they have a knack for making money. Some people just have a knack for making money. You know why we can't do what those other people do? Well, there are probably multiple reasons. For me, sometimes I'm just too lazy to learn, or practice, or study. Sometimes I just don't have time to take advantage of an opportunity. And truthfully, sometimes it's just not innate in all of us to do everything we necessarily want to do. Because you know what? As much as I want to sing like Sarah, I'm never going to sing like Sarah. It's just not in there. And it wouldn't matter how much I practiced or studied or whatever. I don't have the quality and the timbre of voice that she has. Sometimes we just fall into the vicious circle of life with no real resources, and we just spin out. So what's the result? Well, we fall into our places. We fall into what we can do or what is expected of us by others. Sometimes we reach our full potential, sometimes we don't. In our series, those of you who are new with us, we don't always have a Christmas tree in Poinsettias up here in July, but we're doing a Christmas in July sermon series. And so all through the month of July, all of our sermons are based on something about Christmas and usually a movie around Christmas. And last week, if you missed it, was on Rudolph, the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You have landed on the island of misfit toys, so welcome. And this week is not as quite maybe as classical as Rudolph. It's based on the movie Trading Places. It's back in the early 80s. I think it was 1983. And this movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. And it takes place at Christmas time. You have two brothers who are very, very rich and have this very big empire. They have a knack for making money. Oh, they have a knack for making money. And here it is just before Christmas, and they decide to do this social experiment. And that's not what they called it back then, but that's really what it was. They decided to take one of their star employees who is very rich, who is very wealthy and helps them make a lot of money, and they said, oh, he's really not nearly as smart as he thinks he is. He's never done an honest day's work in his life, a hard day's work in his life. We could take any person off the street and train them to do what he does, and they could do it just as well. So they set off on this bet, and they take Dan Aykroyd out of his high position, and they see this homeless person on the street who's trying to make a buck, who's pretending. This is Eddie Murphy, so you have to understand. He's trying to make a buck. He's pretending he's a vet that's come back from Vietnam and has no legs, and he's pushing himself around on this little roller thing and trying to beg money from people. And those of you who are familiar, if you're movie buffs, you probably know the story. So we get a poor black man. I think it's important to put that in there this time. It's not always important to put that in there, but it is this time. And we have the rich white man, and they manipulate their lives in such a way that by trading places, the white guy becomes penniless, and the black guy becomes rich. They find out quickly, or we find out quickly, how the one that loses everything gets pretty sore about it and has to come to grips with losing everything. And just like that, he's lost his home, his job, even his fiance. Because, see, he had lived in the upper crust and he could only date the upper crust, and the girl he was with couldn't, she couldn't have someone who had no money. That just wouldn't be right. We also find out quickly that the one who gained everything gets into the groove of having everything. Because Eddie Murphy really comes to life. I mean, you take him off the street and give him money and give him wealth. Not just give him enough to survive, but give him wealth. I mean, enough to run over. And he first decides he'll just bring in all of the old crowd with him and help them out. And then all of a sudden, he decides, these people don't know how to take care of anything. So he pushes them all back away. And they're all of a sudden not good enough. Here's the thing we find out, though, about him. Taking this person off the streets. This was what I gleaned from looking at it again this week. That maybe I hadn't seen before. Is that Eddie Murphy in that role was not a dumb person. He was just poor. It wasn't that he lacked the intelligence to do a great job, because he actually sat there and listened and learned what these two men who owned the company wanted from him, and he learned it and even taught them how to do it better. So it's not that just he was, somebody, poor and wretched and dumb and ignorant and not to be dealt with. He was just simply poor. Yes, he was a liar because he wasn't really a vet. And yes, he had his legs. And yes, he was trying to con people. But maybe that's all he had ever known. Maybe that's how he could survive. They both, in trading places, had to learn how to live the other one's life. And they both learned how to live it better. In our scripture reading today, we find that Jesus, the Word, came to live among flesh. Came to not just live among, to be flesh. Jesus became God in flesh. In a sense, trading places. Trading places? Now, wait a minute. I get the one part where God came to be a person. That means persons become God. Don't run out the door just yet. Just kind of. Really, Jesus came in that trading places. Not so that we can be gods and be lifted up, but so we can learn to be the hands and the feet and the heart and the voice and all the other body parts of God. So that we learn. Jesus came to show us what kind of human beings we're supposed to be. Jesus came to live it out little by little, every day, showing us what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to think, how accepting we're supposed to be. Remember, Jesus came to live among the common people. Jesus came and was born in a stable. He came and lived among people with different opinions, different theologies, different ways of living, different classes, different amounts of money, different creeds, even different lifestyles. This trading places sort of thing is beginning to take shape. Jesus came to show us how to live so we can be the most godly people on earth. He calls us to live as he did. Try to fix what we can around us. He calls us to love one another and treat each other right. He calls us to do the right thing, even when no one else is looking. He calls us to treat others that are different from us the same way we would treat those that are similar to us. Wow. If we are to be God's body, if we are going to be God on earth, if we're going to be the Jesus that people see, then maybe we have to be all of those body parts that I was talking about. The hands of God, the feet of God. Yet, don't forget this part. Parts that are filled with the Spirit of God. And when we're filled with the Spirit of God, we have wisdom. We have strength. We have grace. We have comfort. See, I can understand, I can empathize, I can sympathize with people when I've lived a lot of life myself and experienced a lot of things myself. For instance, I've experienced loss in my life. A lot of it compounded. A lot of compounded loss in life. I suspect some of you have, at least a third of our congregation knows what it's like to lose your house and most of your, if not all, of your belongings. At least a third of us know what that feels like. Anybody here know what it's like to be cheated on? Anybody know what it's like to lose a job that you like? Anybody know what it's like to feel left out of a group? Anybody know what it feels like not to have enough money to eat a healthy meal? Anybody know what it feels like to be disappointed in someone or something? Yes. We can all feel that and we can empathize with one another. But those are the rough times of life. You see, life is not all that. We're not just victims of life. We are livers of life, you see. We are living our lives. Can anybody put their hand up because you've been giddy with romance at some point in your life? Oh. Some of you are looking at your partner like, when did that stop? Maybe it's time we revisit that. I hope this sermon rekindles something in you today. We are living in, the days of Pentecost, as I might have. Do you know what it feels like to feel the unconditional love of a pet? Oh, yes, I know what that's all about. Do you know what it feels like to have pride in your job and in the work that you're doing, knowing you're doing a good job, to know you're doing it, whether anybody else notices or not? You know that you have done an honest day's work, something you can be proud of. How about you've seen a sunrise and a sunset over the ocean? Maybe on the same day. How many of us have rejoiced at a friend's graduation or engagement or wedding or baby announcement or baby arrival? We know what that's like. You see, that's part of being the body of God and being God on earth, too. That's part of that trading places. See, Jesus went back, but left us. But didn't leave us alone. Left us with that Holy Spirit. Left us with the Comforter. Left us with wisdom and knowledge and strength to be Jesus. To be the Word made flesh. Can we do it all? Can I do it all? No, probably not. We can make a dent.
Yeah.
Can we make everybody's lives better? Probably not. But we can make some people's lives better. Can we save every pet that's in a shelter today? No, probably not. There are millions that are killed every year. But but we can make some pets' lives better. Can we be what Jesus really has called us to be and set the example for us to be? To be those hands, to be those feet? Can we trade places and let the God that lives in us, the Spirit that lives in us, manifest to the world around us? That's what we're called to do. To trade places and make a difference around us every single day. Amen.
Amen.
Again, thank you for watching our worship message video on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified of other video posts. You can also watch our worship service in its entirety by going to facebook.com/MCCBR. You can watch us live on Facebook at 11 a.m. Central every Sunday. Visit our webpage at mccbr.org, where you can find our calendar of events, as well as other information about our church and our denomination. Like our Facebook page so you can be notified of our other live events. Thank you again, and may you have a blessed week.
Whether here and now or another time, not even height or depth, whether strong or weak, in the face of the future or the powers that be, you are not separated.